Hello there, dead and lovely listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of Dead and Lovely, your absolute most fucking favorite horror movie review podcast in all the Shire.
Is that where we are now?
It took a twist at the end, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, all right, so we'll have to let people know that, again, we've had to hop in our proprietary time machine because we had some audio issues with our original Halloween episode.
And by audio issues, you mean that we encountered the Mandela effect because
yeah,
I have, myself and my computer have absolutely no recollection of ever doing a Halloween episode.
And your computer swears it saw that Genie movie with Sinbad in it.
Yes, precisely right. It also swears that it was Berenstain and not Berenstain. What the fuck is going on in the universe?
Well, I mean, we do travel through time. Look, okay, we've all seen Doctor Who. We know there are consequences.
It's true. It's very, very true, man. So we did initially do a Halloween episode. It was probably, a month or two ago, right?
Yeah, it's about a month and a half ago, I'd say.
And now here we are as older men, older and wiser, and I think maybe even more ruggedly handsome men.
Yeah, I think I've acquired a bit of rugged handsomeness in the past month and a half.
If you could go back and tell, original Halloween recording month and a half ago, Steve, anything, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I would tell myself what I told myself when we went back in time to do this, which is sweet dreams, because as you all should know, people think, oh, they're saying they're going back in time. They're just recording and then putting it back where it should be. No, guys, we go back in time, we knock out ourselves, and then we record, and then we wake ourselves up and, convince them that they've already recorded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. My very handsome unconscious corpse is laying right here next to me here. It's looking pretty good. Hair is a bit shorter. My hair is at an unusually long length right now. I'm kind of thinking I might go back to about a month and a half ago length.
Oh, all right. Well, a month and a half. Oh, no. A month and a half ago, he's woken up and he's just crying. What are you sad about? Oh, gosh. All right, whatever.
He'll get over it.
Yeah, he'll get over it. He's fine.
I think if I could go back and tell myself anything a month ago, it would be prepare to be surprised by how much more you can hate Donald Trump. It's like, you think you've maxed out? You're not even close, buckaroo.
Yeah. I think, it's the hope is that we all eventually become numb to it and just stop caring. That's what happened in Russia with Putin.
Dude, and just to give some context, this is the day that Trump via Twitter announced that transgender via fucking Twitter, how very presidential, as Lincoln or JFK would have done. Announced that transgender people are no longer welcome to serve in the military. So, in other words, you can, even as a trans person who is generally downtrodden upon in society anyway, you can still say, you know what, I know that a lot of the people in this country don't like me, don't understand me, don't give me any sort of benefits or anything, but I'm still proud enough of this country that I want to go fight and serve this country overseas and give up a normal life and so on. But because of your gender situation, your help is no longer needed, actually. So fuck you for the millionth time.
Yeah, I have always been of the mind that if somebody does want to go serve in the military, let them.
Yes.
I will not. I'm not going to.
It's never interested me.
Yeah, so, the people that do want to serve, let them serve. I don't give a shit what you feel about their, their sexuality, their gender, or whatever. Just give them a gun and teach them how to shoot it. Yeah,
exactly. Can they do the job? That's all that I fucking care about, man. Just sad to see. Dead and Lovely welcomes all, no matter what your life scenario is. We don't give a fuck.
That's absolutely true. I could not care less. I absolutely do not have a problem with any. I don't understand. I don't understand gender shaming, sex shaming. I don't understand kink shaming. I don't get it.
Who fucking cares?
People are into whatever they're into, and they are who they are, and just fucking, why is it anyone else's business any goddamn way?
I know, exactly. And that's the thing to me, dude, is like, if it does not affect you and it only affects consenting people that are of age, who in the fuck cares how you choose to get off? It just blows my mind, and I think that the only people that care and obsess about this bullshit are just the most, like, perverted, scummy-minded, repressed people in the world that just obsess over what somebody else's genitals are doing. It's just fucking perverted whenever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I would say the perfect example of this is the any witch trials, but specifically the witch trials in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries.
Yeah.
Where the idea is that, like, these people are being accused of all these crimes, and we know from a future standpoint that they likely didn't do anything. They were just tortured into confessing to things. Mm-hmm. It's the things that they were tortured into confessing to that really show you who was behind these inquisitions and these witch trials and things like that, because they were the ones coming up with these demented ideas.
It's kind of like what you were talking about last week on the House of the Devil episode about the Satanic Panic stuff. It's like, the stuff that these people were making up and putting into these people's heads about the whole Satanic Panic was way more fucked up than anything that was actually happening.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because I got an email from one of our listeners, John Latour.
Johnny.
He sent me some stuff about when he was in grade school. He lived in Freetown, Massachusetts, and he sent me this stuff about the Freetown Fall River State Forest in the news. Mm-hmm. Apparently, there were accusations of satanic sacrifices in those woods. And he also sent me this thing about the Bridgewater Triangle, which is this area in New England where a lot of weird shit happens. And there's a guy in it who, his name is Alan Alvis. He said that this guy came to their classroom when they were young and taught them such amazing life skills as the knowledge that AC/DC stood for Antichrist Devil's Children.
Oh!
And KISS was short for Knights in Service to Satan.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Metal.
So that made me actually want to ask you, because I know you grew up around some religious folks. Did you hear any insane, ridiculous ideas about Satanists or anything of that sort when you were little?
You know, it was the kind of thing where it's like that stuff was all so off limits that it was just like you don't even go to there or like think about any of that stuff. But I do remember there was one point when I was I must have been maybe 11 or so, something like that, where we went over to like our pastor's house with a bunch of other kids that were around my age and watched this, it was like a 2-part VHS series or whatever about satanic cults and satanic indoctrination and brainwashing and all this crazy shit. And I just remember that, like, in the video, kind of like as I mentioned in previous podcasts, like I really think that what drew me into like heavy metal and horror movies and all this other stuff I'm into now is like the fact that it was off limits, you know?
Yeah.
So in this video, it was all talking about like, you know, fucking kids playing Doom and listening to like Morbid Angel and all this stuff. And like, you know, on the surface, I was like, oh, wow, scary. But inside, I was like, I wonder what that sounds like.
Little Ben just wanted that delicious satanic music.
I mean, it's, you know, whatever is off limits, that's naturally what the young mind is the most curious about. It's just like, tell me more, you know? There's something about it. So there was stuff like that, just kind of in general. And of course, whenever, you know, anytime something like a Columbine shooting happened, of course, it was all about that satanic Marilyn Manson fella and KMFDM and shit like that too. So just mostly ridiculous stuff. But you know what? You talking about that stuff in the woods there a second ago did remind me. There was This one time, I had some friends, and they lived next to this place that was a kind of like a developing neighborhood, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those, you know, very like prefab, like every house is built in a matter of like a month and a half kind of neighborhoods. And so what we would do is while all these houses were being built and they were just basically frames without doors on them and stuff like that, we would all go and run through these houses and just like explore around them and fucking light dog shit on fire inside of them and just just general misbehaving and stuff, you know?
Yeah, awesome shit.
And yeah, exactly. Stuff that you did before you had an iPad, I guess is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we want kids to get outside. I remember the shit we did when we were outside. I'm fine with kids sitting inside on iPads.
Dude, we did nothing good when we went outside. It's like, get outside, get away from that screen. It's like, man, I would have been a lot safer just sitting in front of that TV.
Yeah.
For the amount of times like my brother and I like almost blew our hands off with explosives and destroyed public property and shit like this.
We used to play on these rocks that were like, they're just in the middle of the woods. Like, if we had fallen off of them, I don't know what we would have done.
Oh, yeah, dude. my brother and I used to do all that shit all the time when we were, like, you know, 6 and 7 years old. We'd go explore around in the woods where there was nothing but, like, steep drops and pointy rocks and, like, rusty barbed wire and, like, you know, fucking black widow spiders and...
Steep drops and pointy rocks. I like that.
That's going to be my best of album.
Yeah. That's amazing right there.
So we were exploring around this neighborhood and stuff, and we went to like this cul-de-sac that was at the very end of the neighborhood, right? And off back, it's kind of set off the road a little bit, kind of a little bit into the woods that were surrounding the neighborhood. We legit found, sitting on a couple of center blocks, this huge trash barrel, like an oil barrel kind of thing, right? And it had all these burn marks and stuff inside of it. There was a pentagram spray painted around it. And dude, like,
awesome.
But then, like, really legit, like a few feet away, we found a trash bag and opened it up, and it had like the remains of several like animals, like cats and dogs and shit.
Oh,
like,
God.
It took a dark turn. It was like, what the fuck did we just find?
Wow.
So, like, legit, that's probably the fucking weirdest satanic, well, you know, of course, I'm sure it wasn't. It was probably just some goth kids that had watched The Craft or some shit that were just fucking around, but that's the closest encounter I ever had with anything truly satanic, I guess, was that. It was fucked up, man.
Was it all cats?
I believe that it was. I don't recall there being any dogs, but there was like several collars and bones and wet fur. And it was really
Here's
disturbing.
where it would have gotten real dark, is if you could have seen in the woods around, there would have been dogs in robes, like, oh, they found our spot. Yeah. It's a secret dog cult that sacrifices cats.
That would have taken a really ominous turn.
Yeah.
So that's about the closest that I've come to that. So, yeah. Crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That satanic panic when we were kids, that was some real shit. No,
it was.
It wasn't, though. It was some fake shit.
No, it was some absolute fake shit, but it totally ruined a lot of lives. So, way to go, guys.
What have you been future watching this week, Steve?
Oh, future watching. Let's see. I recently watched the 3rd season of iZombie. iZombie is amazing. Have I mentioned iZombie to you?
Is that kind of like iCarly?
It's like iCarly, exactly. Except the main character's name is Zombie, but there's no difference.
Oh, okay. So same thing.
Yeah. iZombie is pretty fucking great. I don't know if you've ever seen Veronica Mars or Party Down.
I've heard tell of these. Never seen them.
Both great shows. Both shows I love. And both shows created by Rob Thomas. Not that Rob
From
Thomas.
Matchbox 20 with Santana?
The other one.
Man, his shows are so smooth.
He's got the kind of loving that could be so smooth. Give me your heart. Make it real.
Or else forget about it.
Yeah. Anyway, iZombie is really fun. I guess it's one of those things that if you like Rob Thomas's style, if you like the way his shows are, you'll definitely like it. He'll remind you, I guess his style kind of reminds me, I guess, of I don't know, a little Gilmore Girls splashed with maybe a zombie show of some sort that is, it's not set in a dystopia. It's not set in like this world after a collapse. Mm-hmm. There are zombies, and it's just the regular world. It has a real interesting dynamic to it that hasn't really been explored before.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, just finished season 3, and it's great. I mean, the show can drag at times, and again, you have to like that style. It's a CW show. You have to kind of like that style of show to get into it, but I like it.
Right on, man. That sounds pretty cool.
What have you been watching there, Ben?
So, I just watched this evening a truly horrific film.
Oh, no.
The likes of which I can barely describe to you. I am covered.
Cars 3?
Dude, I am covered in goosebumps now, even just thinking about.
Oh no!
What I have just witnessed on the screen. It's a movie called My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. I got a lot of problems with this movie, Steve.
Man.
I got a lot of problems with this movie.
Oh god! Did you like the first one?
I love the first movie, Steve.
Me too. I'm a big fan of Nia Vardalos. I think she's adorable. I thought it was a fun movie, but yeah, I can imagine. But go ahead, tell me about it.
It's just too horrific to speak of, Steve. It is truly, it pales in the shadow of the original film and all of its successes and acclaims. It's just a pale shadow of its former self, man. It's just terrible, Steve. It's just fucking terrible. It just completely missed the mark in such a big bad way. It fucking sucks. It's really like somebody just watched a clip reel of like all the jokes of the original and just tried to make a movie just based on that, just desperately seeking to reclaim the glory of what made the original funny and missing the point entirely. It's fucking dog shit, Steve. I really hated it.
Wow. Well, I just looked up the box office, and it looks like it made a good bit of money. So maybe we'll get a third one.
I hope that the next one is My Big Fat Greek Funeral. Fuck you.
Oh man. Jeez, that's fucking savage, Ben.
Dude, what if it took like a really dark turn and it was My Big Fat Greek Abortion?
Oh shit. Yeah, I'd go to that. I want to find out what's going on there.
Yeah.
Who's getting the abortion?
It's okay. Well, the Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 is mostly about Nia's daughter. It's about her daughter who's like 17 years old in this movie.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking maybe for the third one she goes off to college, gets knocked up.
Oh, okay.
But then like the family maybe they all band together. And there's the crazy aunt who's like, I have coat hanger. I also make some lamb. Stuff like that.
Here's some Windex.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe like you remember the old noni, the old grandma from the first one, and all the black and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she gets decked out, kind of like the old crone in House of the Devil or something like that. There's a ritual.
Yeah.
This is how we do in the old country, she'd say.
So My Big Fat Greek Abortion, it just takes a turn into horror.
Yeah, exactly. It gets
but
really
like
real.
Accepted horror, like it's even more horrific because everybody's on board with it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we're not even being shown somebody who's like screaming and like, no, don't do that. Everybody's like, yes, this will be great.
Like, you know, the grandpa is like, you know, spraying some Windex on her belly and stuff like this. There's just a lot of opportunity for some fun in there, Steve.
Yeah, listen. It seems like a home run.
Trademark Dead and Lovely podcast.
Yeah.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3.
If I suddenly start seeing casting calls for My Big Fat Greek Abortion, we're gonna make some money off that.
Oh yeah, because this thing is like stamped and dated. You know, it's like this is our claim to fame right here. You guys heard it first here, motherfuckers. But you know, past that, I've also been watching through. Kate and I have been watching through Seinfeld because I have never watched all of Seinfeld.
Really?
And it's the best show of ever.
Well, I did watch Seinfeld while it was on. I still watch it in reruns whenever I get a shot. And I remember, and I guess you probably just didn't get this experience. We'd go to school and stand around the water cooler and talk about that most recent Seinfeld episode. And that wackadoo Kramer.
Oh, he's always getting up to something.
He's a wackadoo.
That he is, man. We watched the one tonight that was, the episode's called The Contest, but it's the Master of Your Domain episode.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Holy fuck, it was so funny, man. I was dying laughing. Kramer comes in there and just like slams his money down on the table. And he's like, I'm out. The scenes in there too with George where he's in there visiting his mom at the hospital, and there's the lady behind the curtain getting the sponge bath, and he's like real turned on and stuff. God, it was so good. But it's like at the same time, gosh, I mean, how ahead of its time was it to do like a sitcom where an episode was all about wanking it, men and women both.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. I mean, it revolutionized sitcoms. It's an amazing show. I love it.
Yeah, it's fucking great. So I've really, really, really been enjoying watching through those. Season 3 was amazing. We're on season 4 now, and it's been fucking fantastic.
One of my favorite episodes is the backwards episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Okay, there's an Indian wedding involved. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Damn, man.
I think it's late. I think it's later though. It's in the later seasons.
Okay, so. That's the thing too, is I've heard that like the show stays good all the way through.
Yeah, it's great.
That's fantastic. So I've been enjoying that. Also happened to rewatch for about the millionth time a little classic film by one Jonald Carpenter.
Jonald, yeah.
By the title of Halloween.
Hallows Even, yes. You know what? I watched that recently too.
Did you?
I got an idea. Yeah, we should talk about it.
Maybe we do a little chatting about it, Steve, because I really, really adore this movie, and I think that we could have ourselves a pretty good talk about it. But you know what, Steve?
What's up? What's going on?
I'm just kind of thinking maybe before we get into this movie, which features one of the most iconic horror movie slasher villains of all time, one Michael Myers, maybe we do, I don't know, like a quiz or something. I want to know, Steve, like what, horror slasher we would be according to some questions from somebody that we don't know on the internet.
Ben, I'd love to know that. Right before we get into it, I have to tell you I had a dream last night in which Leatherface, Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, and Chucky from Child's Play were all fighting it out, and Freddy was totally winning. So in my brain, apparently, Freddy, the one to worry about.
You really might be onto something there, because it seems like he is kind of unkillable, as he can always kind of exist in the dream world.
Yeah. It was a great dream. It actually. There were a lot of explosions and fires. I was having this like action dream sequence where slasher movie villains were just fighting it out.
That sounds badass. Were you like in the midst of it watching, or were you?
Yeah. I was constantly having to duck for cover and shit. It was pretty crazy.
That's badass.
Recently I've been having a lot of very vivid dreams, and I keep waking up from them and not remembering them as soon as I wake up, but like remembering them later as a distant memory of something that actually happened.
Whoa.
And so I'll keep thinking, like I had this dream the other day that, this is a little pathetic, but I had this dream the other day that I got this job as a writer's assistant, and I was working the job, and I woke up and it was like a Saturday, and I was just doing stuff, etc. And it was maybe 3 hours later that I remembered that, and then remembered it wasn't real.
You were putting on like your tie and getting your fountain pen and briefcase.
Gotta get. Yeah, that's what writer's assistants wear.
That's what I thought. I mean, I don't know much about it, but I assume.
So Playbuzz, let's do this here quiz.
We're doing a quiz here on playbuzz.com titled Let me try that again and see if I can read today, Steve. Fucking homeschool just doesn't work.
Oh, man. I bet you didn't ever stand around the water cooler talking about Seinfeld.
I stood by the sink with my brother, and that's about it. That's pretty fucking shot.
Talking about Jesus.
Man, we talked about fucking Jesus and how young the earth is and just silliness.
It's only 5,000 years old. I say it's 200.
I mean, dude, back then it was only 4,500.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was...
Man, these Christians are getting laps.
Well, the quiz that we're taking here is which horror movie slasher are you? It's a quiz on playbuzz.com by Eric Swartz.
Yeah, and the first question here, Ben, it says, which personality trait fits you best? Shy, spontaneous, dedicated, funny, or curious?
Oh, you know what? I think of those choices, Steve, considering that, you know, as handsome as a young Marlon Brando isn't one of those choices.
Yeah, that's true. And that's unacceptable, I think.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what we'd both choose, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we wouldn't choose them. It would choose for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, our phones have cameras on them.
Yeah. Since that's not a choice, I think I'm going to go with curious like a kitten. My friends call me Whiskers because I'm so curious. I'm generally the type of guy that whenever I'm getting into something, I want to know everything about it. I want to know the ins and outs, the standards, the variations, and so on. So I would describe myself as a curious kind of person. What about you, Steve? What kind of person might you be?
I would agree with that. I'm also very curious, but and this is to me, I think positive quality, but others might find it to be a negative quality. I find myself to be very funny. And when I listen back to our podcasts, I oftentimes laugh very hard at things I have said.
Steven, I think you're extremely fucking funny.
I don't disagree.
I keep a short list folded up meticulously in my wallet at all times.
Oh no.
Of the top 3 people that I think are funny.
Oh God. Oh man, I hope I'm on there.
You haven't been dethroned since fucking freshman year at Walter State Community College, dude.
Yes! Wait, who are the other 2?
You don't know them. It doesn't really matter.
Oh.
It's just, you know, it's nobody. Don't worry.
Now it feels kind of cheap. Oh man. I feel dirty, but I kind of like it. Anyway,
let me take your mind off of it and ask you, Steve. What is most important to you?
Yeah.
Would it maybe be adventure or perhaps friendship, the courtesy of kith and kin?
Yeah.
Perhaps it's peace that matters most to you. Family, as in people that might be a blood relative of some sort. Or maybe not. Depends on your definition of family, motherfucker.
Right.
Or love.
Gosh, this is a tough one. And it's not for the reasons you would think. I am not a great family member. Except to my wife. I don't call my mom very often. Not really up to date on my family usually. I wouldn't say I'm the best friend in the world. The people I am friends with close, I'm a good friend to. But, you know, if I'm not very close to you, I probably won't come hang out with you on a Friday night.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say what's most important to me, to be honest, is probably just peace.
Yeah.
I love quiet and peace, and I love when everyone gets along and everyone's having a good time.
You love it when the kids stay off your goddamn yard and give you some peace and quiet.
You know, this is actually okay. I don't want to make this too long, but we live on the first floor at the front of the building, and so our window goes out to what is a little like yard in front of our building, and there are always kids playing out there, and they hit our windows sometimes with soccer balls and stuff. And I always want to be that man who's like, get off my damn lawn, but I I stop myself. It's not that I'm not that person inside. It's just that I don't want people to know I'm that person. So I'm saying it on a podcast that gets hundreds of listens.
Yeah, great call, man.
Anyway, so what is your favorite toy, Ben?
Oh wait, I didn't answer what's most important to me.
Oh
Steve.
shit, yeah. What's most important
God
to you?
damn, you're right. Friendship is not the most important to you.
I don't care about people, not at all.
Well, even though you don't want to know, our listeners might be interested to know. Steven, I personally think friendship is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Even if you don't.
Listen, I think it is very important. I just, it's one of those things where if I say it's the most important and I also feel like I fail at it, then I would feel like I'm a failure. So
Steven, you don't fail me, bro.
Don't say that to me, man. You're gonna make me cry. Quick fun fact about Hollywood Steve Spratling.
Yeah.
I cry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And all the time. Cry about anything. Not like I'm a whiny person type of cry, but like if I'm watching a movie and there's like a music swell, I'm gonna cry.
It's on.
If I'm watching Doctor Who and it's the third act, I'm crying.
If you're watching a guitar lesson video and the handsome guy on the screen says you suck at guitar, you're crying.
Yeah, I'm crying. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if anybody heard it, but in our episode of The Witch, I actually teared up at one point.
Oh shit! I didn't notice that.
No, I don't know if anybody would. My voice caught a little bit, and I heard it on the re-listen, and I was like, you know what? I don't think anybody will know what that is, but even if they do, I don't care.
Was it that part where you were like, our sweet Satan is just the best to us? Hail Satan!
Well, listen. All right, okay, so you love Jesus, you get to cry, and I love Satan, I don't get to cry?
Come on.
Come
off it.
Let's sing some Satan hymns.
Oh, hail Satan, Beelzebub.
I was assuming Devil Went Down to Georgia, but all right.
I don't know. He gets defeated in that song. I don't know how positive that is.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's a Christian song. So Ben, what is your favorite toy?
Okay.
Is it puzzles?
No.
Is it them Cabbage Patch Kids?
Fuck no.
Is it a Rubik's Cube? Isn't that a puzzle?
I mean, it's kind of a puzzle more than a toy. Yeah.
Is it an Easy Bake Oven, or is it Legos?
Of those choices right there, Steve, I'm gonna tell you.
I think we're probably gonna pick the same thing. Go ahead.
Oh, dude, Legos all day.
Yeah, Legos. I don't like what. What is this question even?
I call Legos live action Minecraft.
Yeah. So it's like when you can't be playing actual Minecraft, like real stuff Minecraft. You're like, I guess I'll put these blocks together.
Yeah, exactly. I call Minecraft 2D Legos.
Oh.
Okay. I also call it anti-Legos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that when you're in the nether, you call it that, or?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
All right. Okay.
I do enjoy Lego. We also, and this is one of those things that I think we probably got, for like $1 at a yard sale or something like that, since we were poor white trash as children.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I understand.
Dude, we played a lot with Constructs. Did you ever have a Construct?
Constructs. God, tell me what they were like, and I'll tell you if we played with them.
Basically, it was varying long pieces of plastic. There were some of them that were very short, and some of them that were very long, and you could connect them together with sort of hubs that have it's like a little cube,
Yeah. Okay. My brother had those. I have a little weird background. My brother is my half brother. He's 4 years older than me, and he was actually raised by my grandparents.
Is he top half or bottom half?
Bottom half. Bottom half is the same as me. His top half is different.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Werewolf on top.
Yeah. My mother had sex with a werewolf as a young lady, and then it didn't work out. I don't know why.
We all have our experimental phases. I'm not here to judge, as we said at the front of the show.
And she let my grandparents raise them because, of course, they're also werewolves.
Yeah, makes sense.
My mom hadn't been bitten yet. She's a werewolf now.
Ah, okay. Trans werewolf.
Trans werewolf, yeah. So anyway, my older brother, he had toys that I didn't have unless I went over to my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
And then my cousins had Legos and Lincoln Logs and things like that. My sister and I had none of those things. We didn't have anything to build together. So we just spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house or my cousin's house.
Dude, you said Lincoln Logs, and it just made me kind of flash back to this one time that my brother had built this super mega elaborate Lincoln Log cabin.
Yeah.
And he was like stoked as fuck about it. He was so proud of himself.
No.
He was probably like, I don't know, 7 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother, who was basically like Ozzy Osbourne as a female, just like the biggest fucking pillhead of all time.
Sounds great.
She just a real gem of a human being. She was at the house watching this while my parents were away doing something, and I guess she was probably all pilled out, and she like fell and destroyed the Lincoln Log house.
Oh no.
And she just kept being like, "Oh,
man.
Hurricane Ann." Her name's Ann. She's like, "Hurricane Ann has struck again." It's like,
Oh.
not making it better.
No, Hurricane Ann.
My brother was so mad.
I bet.
Well, let's try to move along past these wonderful childhood memories. Let me ask you, Steve, what might your favorite color be? I happen to know this, I think, from a previous quiz that we did, Steve. We got red, blue, green, black, and orange. You're a big orange fan because of UT.
No, I am an orange fan because it is a great color.
It's a legitimate color, people, not just a football team.
I struggled with that growing up a lot because orange has always been my favorite color, and I'm not a fan. Like, I love college football, I have said before in this podcast. Love it. I watch it religiously, but I'm not a fan of any one team, and I actually always just took sort of offense to the idea that I liked orange because of UT, because it was like, no, I just like orange. Like, the two things can be separate. But then I eventually just sort of embraced it and didn't really care in the least bit. I painted my room orange. I had these super sweet day glow orange sunglasses I used to wear all the time. Big fan of orange.
You go, girl.
What about you, Ben?
I'm a greensman. I've always liked the color green. That's my jam.
Yeah. You got a pretty sweet green guitar I've seen before.
You know what? I've been known to play a green guitar. I'm super excited because, as some of you listeners know, I have a signature guitar pick line with the company BHL Picks, which is a wonderful one-man operation making boutique handmade picks that are extremely fine. I have a signature pick called the Wizard, and we actually just recently came out with a lower-priced, budget-friendly, affordable line of the Wizard called the Acolyte. And I'm super excited about it. Oh, dude, I'm so stoked about it because it comes in transparent neon green, my favorite. So be sure to...
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's the raddest. So yeah, green all day.
Yeah, green's great. Ben, what is your favorite food? Is it... Gosh, what are...
It's a weird assortment.
Yeah. Is it hot dogs?
No.
Pizza? Salad? Pumpkin pie? Or sushi?
The pie really throws me off. Like... It's dessert.
Yeah. Also, you couldn't have thrown a burger there, or just some option. Anyway,
given those choices, man, for me it's all between a pizza and a sushi sandwich. I'll tell you what, though, I don't know if there's really ever a time that I'm not in the mood for a pizza pie. I love me a good old slice, a good old thin, floppy New York slice. That's always going to do it for me. I adore a sushi sandwich, but every now and then I'm not in a sushi mood. It's rare I'm not in that pizza mood. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I would also say pizza, but so as to not definitely get the same result, I'm going to go with sushi, as that would be my number 2.
Yeah. All right, so our next question that we have here on our quiz is, which music do you like best? Now, Steve, I got to ask you.
Oh no.
Do you like best a rap?
Yeah.
A country? A rock and roll? Those are 2 choices.
Yeah. You can get 2 for 1 there.
It's a twofer.
You get both rock and roll.
It's hard to beat. You got a heavy metal and a folk. So of those choices, where are you at?
Oh man, I'm not good at picking favorites. But I would say I listen to hip hop, rap most often. So I'm gonna say rap.
You a gangster. You over there. You're a fucking blood over there on the West Coast.
Well, that's how we do. It's West Side. I mean, what are you gonna do?
I'll tell you, Steve, I'm kind of torn as far as the choices here because, okay, you know, a lot of people know me as a hard rock, heavy metal kind of guy.
Yeah.
The God's honest truth is that I really strongly dislike most heavy metal.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a glut. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot to hate.
Yeah, a lot of it really, really sucks. But it's like...
Mm-hmm. But the good stuff is so good.
Yeah, exactly. Like the bands that are in metal that I like the most, like Meshuggah and Mastodon and Torch and stuff like that. It's like I love those more than pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm.
But 98% of metal sucks, and I hate it. I would actually probably have to say, just based on numbers alone, I'm gonna have to answer this with a rock and roll because.
Okay.
I mean, really, some of the most important music to me ever is like early Van Halen and Led Zeppelin and Green Day and Weezer and all this other stuff that would fall into the greater rock and roll category. So yeah, I'm a rocker. I'm a roller.
I grew up listening to 103.5 WIMZ.
WIMZ.
Yeah, in Knoxville. It's a classic rock station, and my mom was she kept up on rock. She used to go to concerts a lot as a younger woman. She also took my brother to a Guns N' Roses concert.
Oh, shit.
When I was a young man. And she always was A-okay with me going to concerts and stuff, even as a younger person. So I attribute almost all of my musical education in that early day to classic rock and you know, then hair metal and stuff like that. But then... Of course, I also grew up in the days of MTV, and, you know, I remember liking hip-hop the most then and still liking hip-hop the most now, so.
Strong call. What's our next one that we got on there, Steven?
Which TV show do you like best? These are some interesting options. They're almost all TGIF, so
Look
we got
out.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Mm-hmm, with Clarissa.
We got Family Matters. Did I do that? Right. Stefan Urkel.
Oh my god, dude. Yes.
We have Friends. Home Improvement. Yeah.
Cocaine.
Cocaine. I was a coke dealer in Michigan, and then I became a comedian.
Do you think that he was like a big influence on DMX?
God, I hope so. I would love it if DMX was to do like an interview with Charlie Rose, which I'm sure is in the works. And Charlie Rose to be like, you know, what was one of your main influences? And him to be like, Tim Allen.
And then the interviewer's like, okay, so you got the woofing thing from Tim Allen. X, where did you get the idea about having blood on your dick because you fucked a corpse?
Tim Allen. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. I didn't say it was DMX. That was DMX was in here just now, and he said that.
Direct quote.
Our last option is Boy Meets World.
All right, dude. Of those options right there, it's easy because Friends. Listen, there's no such thing as the best show of all time, but it is Friends. I am such a lame ass, corny motherfucker. I actually inscribed in my wife and I's wedding bands.
Oh, okay.
Buckle up.
Chenandler Bong, was that it?
Chenandler Bong. We have I'll Be There For You inscribed in our wedding bands, dude.
That's awesome.
Because Friends is the best. That's one of those things that my wife and I have so many great memories of and stuff. Friends will always be the easy answer for me. So yeah, fucking Friends. Where you at on that spectrum?
Well, I think of the 5 shows here, Friends is the best. But the one that I would say had the most effect on me as a young man was Boy Meets World. Because I had me a big old crush on Topanga.
Dude, and I'll tell you what, that had a huge effect on my bowl cut styling.
Oh yeah, because there were a number of bowl cuts in that show.
You damn right. Not only Ryder Strong, but Homeboy's big brother. Sick
his
bowl
older
cuts.
brother. Uh-huh.
Sick bowls, just all over that show. They were smoking bowls. What if we started a website? Or maybe an
smoking bowls.
Yeah, what if we
just
started
great bowl cuts.
Dude, it's just an Instagram feed.
Yeah. No, that's great.
That's just the sweetest bowl
Hold
cuts.
On. Let me
see if that's taken.
Yeah, I'm gonna really look that up, and we might even have to cut this out because that's $1 million idea right there.
Yeah, because we're like halfway through this episode, we're gonna be like, and all right, peace out. We're off to start our new careers on Instagram at Smoking Bowls. That's hilarious. Smoking
really
bowls.
It really is. And I know where I'll get most of the pictures, and that is from. Have you ever watched Forensic Files?
No.
A lot of bowl cuts.
Shit,
a lot of bowl cuts on a lot of ladies.
I love it absolutely already, man. Dude, this podcast right here is fucking gold. You've got my big fat Greek abortion. You've got fucking smoking bowls.
Yeah, we're ruling this without even talking about Halloween yet.
It's solid gold, dude. Solid fucking podcast gold. Well, Steve, let me ask you. We're nearing the end of this quiz here, and this is a pretty important question.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite movie genre?
Yeah. This is a good one.
Are we talking thriller? It's just a thriller. Are we talking she blinded me with science fiction?
She blinded me with science fiction.
I was really hoping that I could do songs for all these, but I'm like, documentary. I'm like, I don't really have anything for that. Maybe like Documentary of a Madman by Ozzy. I don't know. It's close.
Yeah, right. It's pretty close, yeah.
We got some of that horror business from the Misfits, and we also have comedy for a laugh. Now, of those genres, what's your favorite?
Man, I mean, this is we're not doing a horror podcast for no reason. Horror's my favorite genre.
Yeah, duh, same here.
So there we go.
Easy.
All right. Where are we at? What's going on here? What? All right. Playbuzz took a second to load.
Uh-oh.
All right. Here we go. So finally, we're going to find something out with this major question. Oh, wait. No, we have 2 questions to go.
These 2 major questions.
With these 2 major questions. What is your favorite school subject?
I'm not in school.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I would be. Honestly, if I could go to school for the rest of my life, I would.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing in the world. Learning is amazing. Kids stay in school unless, you want to go into the entertainment industry or the arts or, a job that you could get without a college degree or anything you could do with just like a technical. You know what? Don't go to college.
Yeah, maybe just don't. Join the military unless you don't neatly fit into one of 2 boxes. Then I guess fuck yourself.
Listen, guys, I used to teach at colleges. I'll tell you this. Your professors, they're too damn busy to care about you.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So what is your favorite school subject? Cooking. Don't remember that school subject.
Yeah.
Science. Blinded me with it.
Now, science being the stuff about the Earth being about I don't know, about 2 weeks old, right?
Yeah, and God made a bunch of animals, and then he killed off all of the dinosaur-looking ones, and then saved 2 of every animal on a boat that couldn't possibly hold 2 of every animal.
Yeah, that's science. That was science for me, anyway.
It's pretty good science. Maths, as the British say.
Maths.
Because they want to shorten it, but then they want to toss that S back on the history, and of course, art. Ben, what was your favorite school subject?
That's an easy one for me. I enjoy art. I like art. Now, I'll tell you though, cooking actually was kind of a homeschool class because, of course,
you learned how to cook.
Yeah, because there wasn't no homeschool cafeteria, so there was a lot of like, oh, let's make a simple, hearty lunch in the kitchen with Ma. So actually, I did learn a lot from the cooking class, but I would say art is the one that I enjoy the most. I like to do painting. I like to draw with the pen. So, what about you?
I also grew up learning to cook because having a single mother class. So I learned to cook at an early age, around 5. And I love it. I'm a huge fan of cooking.
Me too.
As far as because my degree is in literature, I love movies, etc. If any of those things had been on the list, I would have chosen that. But I'm gonna go with cooking.
I'm gonna tell you one of my favorite early cooking class memories, Steve.
Okay.
This is a good one. So, when I was a kid, growing up with my mom and my redneck dad, my redneck dad, he really enjoyed just some good old-fashioned country cooking, right?
Okay.
Which I have mostly no palate for. He loved stuff like just some fucking soup, beans, and cornbread. Like, fucking country is a chicken coop shit, right?
Yeah.
I hated that. Absolutely hated it. I do like a cornbread, but soup, beans, I just always fucking hated that stuff. So he would ask Mom to make beans, and it's like, for y'all that don't know, you have to like simmer them on low for a really long time and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And your house smells like farts.
Oh, dude, it's just the fucking worst. And then it doesn't get any better. I'll put it that way. So all the time, anytime Mom was doing that, because that's what Dad requested, I would sneak over to the stove and crank that sumbitch up to high and let him fucking burn. And my mom would apparently get in like huge amounts of trouble. And we'd order pizza.
Well, all right.
And I didn't tell my mom about this until I was probably like 20.
Okay.
And she was like, what? This was well after they divorced and stuff. And she was like, seriously, you did that? And she's like, you don't know how many times I got chewed out for that shit. And it's like, we were poor as fuck growing up. We couldn't afford to eat out all the time. But I was like,
yeah,
I don't know, pizza can't be that much. Let's just burn these beans. I don't want them. Fucking asshole kid, dude. Terrible.
Yeah. I also grew up eating... My grandfather likes a bunch of country shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is because, like... living out here in Los Angeles, I eat more fresh food. I eat more food that's like been canned locally and stuff like that. And growing up, I was taught that is country.
Sure.
But nowadays, people who live in the country, everything they eat is from the supermarket. It's all from the store. Like, their cornbread oftentimes is not made from scratch.
Yeah.
I know my grandmother, for my grandfather, was just pouring cans into pots and warming them a lot of times, and he loved that shit.
So bad.
I hated it.
Ugh.
I hated it. That's why I learned to cook. That's one of the reasons, because it was just like, I know there's better food out there.
That's the kind of shit that like makes you think vegetables are fucking awful when you're a kid, is because you've had green beans that are the color of like a Vietnam Army jacket.
Yeah. It's not until you have like some nice fresh green beans that have maybe been, I don't know, roasted a little or something.
Steamed.
And, steamed, a little bit of maybe like garlic, maybe some lemon peel or something sort of set them off.
My jam is like at least once every week, we always do a steamed green bean with just some butter and sea salt and about a half a fresh squeezed lemon juice on there. So good.
So good, yeah.
Me so hungry.
Yeah, totally getting hungry now.
Well, let me ask you, Steve, for our last question here, we got a doozy. This is gonna be the last thing it's gonna reveal to us which slasher we are. Now, this is really important, Steve. Are you ready?
Yeah, this will be super important. I'm positive of it.
I want to know which season you might prefer. We got 4 choices. They left off my favorite one, so you just got to choose one of these.
Okay.
You got to choose summer.
Okay.
You got to choose winter.
Right.
You could choose autumn. And we've also got a spring. Where you at?
Well, when I used to live in the South, I would have said it was either summer or autumn. But here in Los Angeles, spring is my favorite season for sure.
Nice. Well played. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve. Have you ever heard a song, maybe from like an early 90s sort of hip-hop girl group that goes, he's a summertime man, he's a summertime man, he's a summertime man? You know that one?
Yeah, I think I've heard it a couple times.
That's about me. I'm a summertime man.
He's a summertime man. Yeah, summer in the South is amazing.
Yeah.
I really love it. Summer in Los Angeles is just, it's a slog. It's hard. It gets too hot. It stays too hot. You go out during the day and there's just no clouds ever. It's always just the sun beating down on you. It's real relentless, I would say.
Sounds rough, man. It's calculating my results and it's giving me a Disney commercial. Is that what you're getting?
No, I actually got results.
Oh, I just got mine pulled up. Who are you, Steve?
Well, I am Jason Voorhees. I enjoy nature and the outdoors and have a love for the arts. Some may consider me strong, silent type. I wish for peace. That's Jason Voorhees. He's always... Hey, that's a thing that they talk about a lot in the movie is all he wants is peace.
Yeah, that's why he's killing all these folks.
I wish for peace, but when someone trespasses on my territory, I may just have to kill them in the most creative and original way possible.
Well, Steve, that is, word for word, the same result that I got. Look at us.
Jesus Christ. We're the same person, Ben.
We're the double mint Voorhees.
And I'll tell you this, I don't know where these emails are coming from. Could be ladies, could be men, but they're all saying, I want to hit it like I wanted to hit them double mint twins.
You know what, though? It's funny that we mentioned that because do you remember in, which one is it? Is it Friday the 13th part 5 that has the skinny dipping scene with the twins and stuff in it?
Yeah, that's 5 or 6. I don't remember.
Those are legit the double mint twins.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember. I watched the documentary a few months ago, and I was like, oh, shit, really?
Badass. Well, look at us, Steve. Look at us, man. We are just totally adorable.
I don't think we've exposed anything about Playbuzz's quiz being, I don't know, disingenuine, perhaps.
Considering we answered like all those questions except for... I think horror. Yeah, we both answered horror. And then what was the other one?
You know what? Maybe it was just one.
I think it was. Damn it, man. Well, that was apparently the one that really made the fucking damn difference. So, thanks for nothing, jackasses. Eric Swartz, fucking suck me.
Oh, hold on. I just got an email. This is from Eric Swartz. He says... Name a time and place?
What?
All right.
Huh? What?
Huh? Oh, now he's sending me a dick pic.
Okay.
Ben. Oh, no, don't name a time or place.
I'm going to get hurt.
Oh. Yeah, it's too big.
Well, Steve, the main reason that we're here talking on our wonderful online internet phone conversation with these lovely people is to talk about one of my favorite horror movies of all time, John Carpenter's Halloween, which I saw for the first time, gosh, it's probably been at least 10 or so years, but it's not one of those ones that I grew up with, being a late-in-life bloomer to the horror genre. So I didn't grow up watching this one, but it was one of those ones that was always kind of like looming in the dark corners of Video West, where, you know, the box looks super rad and stuff, but I was never, of course, allowed to watch it as a kid. So whenever I finally watched it, you know, I had seen some of the other classic horror flicks by that point and was just kind of generally like, oh, you know, whatever, these are fine. But Halloween really connected with me right away, and I just really, really, really enjoyed it for a multitude of reasons that we'll talk about. When was the first time that you watched this flick, Steve?
I saw it, I think I was maybe 9 or 10, and it was on USA, Up All Night.
Oh.
Yeah. I remember, you know, if you watch this movie and think about what you would have to edit out to show it on TV, there's actually not much.
No, That's a really interesting thing about it is, like, really the kill that we have at the very first of the movie where Michael kills his sister. And then I think that there's I want to say there's one other kill where we see actual blood on screen. Otherwise, it's like there is no blood on screen at all. It's kind of like Texas Chainsaw, where there's not really a lot of on-screen gore, but you remember it as being very brutal.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see somebody hung on a meat hook while they're still alive, it's gonna stick with you.
Yeah, definitely so. But this one is like, it's not really all that brutal. So you watched it edited on USA.
Yeah, and I saw, I think, all of the others except for 3, either by renting or seeing them on HBO or USA or something like that. Part 4 and 5, I had a huge crush on Danielle Harris, who at the time was older than me, so I'm not creepy.
Look at you.
Yeah, I had a huge crush on her, and then she ended up playing what is her name? Annie. Oh, what's the name of Annie Brackett? She ended up playing Annie Brackett in the remake.
Oh, yeah, she is super cute.
She's a super cutie, yeah. And I also had a crush on Annie Brackett, the original from Halloween. I don't know what it was. Maybe they just chose cute girls to play Annie Brackett, or maybe I identified with the character. I don't know.
I think that you, similar to me, am just a real sucker for a petite brunette that doesn't mind Porky Pigging it every now and then, just wearing a shirt and no bottoms.
Yes! I'm glad you brought it up. I think you called it Winnie-the-Poohing it last time that we record, because I know next week I mention it.
Oh yeah, that's right. It comes back up again. Yeah, she was straight Pooh Bearing it, getting stuck in that winder.
Yeah, just wearing a shirt and no pants. Yeah,
it's a good look.
It was a real revolution for me about a month and a half ago when you first said it, because I was like, oh no, turns out I'm super into that.
Porky Pigging.
Super into Porky Pigging. So
your search history is all like Porky Pigging, GIF, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's real hard to find that porn.
It's very specific.
Shirt on, no pants, knee highs. I don't know.
Whatever works for you, man. Whatever works for you.
So Halloween is a great fucking movie. I mean, we're dealing with John Carpenter. This is our second John Carpenter movie. As I said when we did In the Mouth of Madness, John Carpenter is my favorite horror director.
So many hits, man. He's one of those guys that really did just consistently deliver probably the most quality movies. If you look at like a Wes Craven, it's like, yeah, of course, amazing stuff, but some real pieces of shit too.
Yeah. Yeah, he did some real not great shit.
And not to say that everything Carpenter ever did was like a 10 out of 10, but probably statistically the most good ones of about anybody.
Yeah, and I even recently, because I haven't watched some of his last few movies after In the Mouth of Madness. I've seen The Village of the Damned remake and Escape from LA, but I hadn't seen Vampires. I still haven't seen Ghosts of Mars. I finally watched Vampires, and it's awesome.
I want to watch that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I really loved it. So I'm going to give Ghost of Mars a chance soon.
I've heard it's not good.
Yeah, I've heard the same, so I'm not excited about it. Vampires I put off for a while, thinking, because it got bad reviews and things, but they were just wrong. I mean, you can be wrong. Critics can be wrong.
I mean, Math of Madness didn't exactly knock the critics over either, and that's one of my all-time fucking jams. Math of Madness is the best, dude.
Yeah. So, Carpenter, this was his, third movie, I guess?
I think third, because he had Precinct 13 and Dark Star before it, neither of which I've seen.
Okay, well, Dark Star is real weird space movie. Really like it. It's a comedy as much as it is like really interesting sci-fi. Assault on Precinct 13 is great.
So I've heard.
Once you see it, you'll just understand like a lot of action movies that have come along since then that really sort of fit that mold.
I've heard that. Did you ever see The Raid, that Indonesian flick?
Yes, it's like that. Yep.
Okay, I had heard that The Raid was kind of like Assault on Precinct 13, but like, dialed up to fucking 11.
Yeah, have you seen Dredd, the Judge Dredd remake with Carl Urban?
No, I haven't, but I heard it was pretty badass.
It's awesome. I really liked it. It also has that same sort of element. Like a lot of it is, it's kind of like if you were playing a video game on like a zombies level, like where you're just sort of holding off zombies in this small area. It really plays like that. The movie is just them holding off these gangs of thugs trying to get revenge on them.
Brad.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, this is his third movie. His first two movies had small budgets. This one actually has a small budget too. It was a $300,000 budget, which, you know, translates today into a very mediocre, probably $1.5 million.
The cool thing is it was all kind of started by him and producer, with the mysteriously named producer Mustafa Akkad, having a conversation, being like, Carpenter was like, I really want to make like a low budget, you know, horror flick for like $300,000, and Mustafa was like, that's not possible to do it on that kind of budget. And Carpenter said, basically, if you give me complete creative control, if you just completely put this in my hands and don't outsource the fuck out of everything, I can do it. And he did it. And I mean, of course, we see so much stuff like him taking care of the soundtrack and all kinds of other things just to keep the budget down, and also having the absolute final say on the final cut of the movie, which is something that a lot of directors are not afforded by their studios. They were able to do it, and it made an absolutely insane amount of money. It was, at the time, the most successful, highly grossing independent film of all time up until that point, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, it ended up making $70 million in the box office.
God damn, off $300,000.
Adjusted for inflation, that's $255 million.
Holy cow!
So the return on this, it made Carpenter's career. Like, it made it so that he could get a lot of control after that. I mean, he does the music in almost all of his movies, which would cause a lot of production companies today to be a little worried. You don't want to give too much control to one person, because they can entirely ruin a movie, even a good property. So,
but man, that with Carpenter, that's never a worry, because his soundtracks are the shit, dude. I don't care if it's this movie or Mouth of Madness or any of those other ones. His soundtrack work is always top notch.
It's great.
I imagine he's one of those cats, and the thing is too, is it makes sense because there's musicians that are this way too. There's some musicians that only hear their part when they're writing something. Like, I've met dozens of guitar players that, you know, they'll write riffs or whatever, but they won't know what the drums should be doing. They won't know they'll not have an idea about what the bass player should be doing or whatever. But then you meet other musicians who, you know, whenever they write this chord progression, they also have a groove in mind. They also have a vocal melody in line or whatever. They hear the big picture. And I imagine that Carpenter is one of those guys that when he's thinking about a movie, he can see the big picture too and know exactly what it should look like and what it should sound like and how it should be edited and so on. And even hearing him talk about movies and stuff too, anytime you hear him talking about why, you know, Halloween was a success and why some other slashers that kind of tried to imitate it weren't a success, he uses terms like they didn't have the rhythm right, they didn't have the right timing. Like, he speaks in musical terms very, very frequently. So I imagine that to him, the film and the score are all just one thing all rolled up into one. So brilliant, awesome soundtrack in this. I mean, probably, up there with like Tubular Bells as being, you know,
iconic. Yeah,
dude, 2 notes in, you know exactly what you're listening to whenever you hear this. And of course, there's the iconic one that we all know, that odd meter thing with kind of the ticking clock behind it on the piano, which is rad. But a lot of the other stuff in the movie is so cool too, really eerie, and even just little soundtrack stabs he does when Michael appears and stuff like that. I couldn't imagine anything else working better for this.
Yeah, he's also got an amazing eye, and he's able to move even very complicated stories along quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So like The Thing or Mouth of Madness. Like they have very complicated stories, very complicated story structures, and really things that the audience has to pay close attention to. But he makes it so that it's hard to miss, even in these really tough things to follow.
Yeah.
So he's got just a great style as a director.
Absolutely so, man. Absolutely. Really, really awesome. And the production of this movie, too, is interesting in a lot of ways whenever you watch the director's commentary, because there's so much stuff in there about, you know, again, to keep budget down, a lot of the actors and actresses, like Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, provided their own wardrobe. Like, she went and shopped at JCPenney because she thought that's where Laurie Strode would probably shop at and stuff like this, you know. Bought her whole wardrobe. There's stuff like, you know the red truck that we see in the movie that Loomis finds with the guy that's dead? Like, that was just the craft service guy's truck. And they just put like a little sign on the door that said, you know, whatever, Johnson's Tune-Up or whatever it says on the door. Like, it's all little stuff like that you get whenever you see independent films that are the behind the scenes things that you don't know about that are happening. Like, they were talking about in that very first awesome scene of the movie that we open up with, the Mike Myers first person perspective shot, you know?
Yeah.
They were talking about how in order to get that scene to work right, because, you know, it's really like 2 cuts, but it's essentially one long continuous take. You know, inside of that house, there were crew members running around, unplugging lights, plugging lights in, and all this stuff just to make sure it was lit right, because they only had, you know, 2 or 3 lights or whatever. They didn't have enough to keep that whole house lit for cinema, you know, for filming.
Yeah.
So they couldn't go out and buy more because the budget was so low. So while Mike is walking around the house, there's people inside of there scrambling around, resetting lights and all kinds of shit like that. It's so cool, man.
Yeah, we keep finding again and again that constraints on time and budget tend to end up creating really good horror movies.
Yeah. You have to think creatively. When you can't just show the full Monty and do everything you want to, you've got to think of other ways. How can I convey, you know, this violence, this gore, this whatever, without actually showing it? Because I can't literally afford to show it. It makes you so much more creative. A lot of times, like you said, the limitations are what makes this stuff so fucking good.
Yeah, so, I mean, after having to work through a real small budget, they had a bit of a time crunch. I read 2 different quotes on how long it took to write the script. One said 3 weeks, one said 10 days.
Whoa.
As somebody who's written before and continues to write, I would say that they had 3 weeks to finish the script, probably.
Yeah.
And they used those last 10 days to do it, because that's kind of how, I mean, that's kind of how a lot of scripts get done. Is it you have to mull over it for a while before you can really get down to putting something on the paper.
Right. But it's a really simple storyline too. The original title of the movie was The Babysitter Murders, and it's like that pretty much sums up the movie. It's about a bunch of babysitters on. It wasn't originally planned to be on Halloween night, but it's about a bunch of babysitters that get murdered. So it's like, it's right there in the title. The decision to make it on Halloween night was apparently not anything that was an initial plan while they were writing the movie. They were just like, you know what? Which, this is amazing to me. Nobody had ever done a horror movie on Halloween night by that point. They're like, well, this is available. Let's take it.
Yeah.
Now, a cool thing that I learned too is that apparently Jamie Lee Curtis was not the original choice to play Laurie. That is not who John Carpenter wanted. He wanted somebody from some sitcom that I didn't know about, but, you know, of course, she is the daughter of 2 very famous actresses. Janet Leigh, of course, having a horror movie pedigree, appearing in Psycho and stuff. And, yeah.
Tony Curtis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tony Curtis, her dad. And he was, she was not the original choice to play Laurie.
No, she was his 3rd choice, I believe. Wow. She was pretty low down there.
She was behind, like, David Lee Roth, I think, was the next choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he thought, well, if I can't get whoever his original choice was. I want to get David Lee Roth because I've written a lot of kicks into this, and I want him to be. And you know what? He had to cut the kicks out because Jamie Lee Curtis. So
yeah, exactly. Those really high waisted pants.
Is this really a good movie? Think about the movie we could have had.
It would have been the best.
Yeah. There would have been a lot of cocaine.
There would have been so much fucking cocaine in the movie. And plus, too, like, the ending scene whenever Loomis, shoots Myers and he falls out the window, that was originally supposed to be a high-flying split kick. You watch it and you're like, that would have worked. It really would have worked.
Yeah. Or if she had done the Liu Kang thing and like jumped up and then flew across and kicked him out the window.
Oh man! And then like right as he was trying to get up, she shot a fireball at him because that's what your asshole friend that always played as Liu Kang would do. He'd flying kick you, and then he'd fucking fireball your ass while you're trying to get up. It was the worst.
And then he'd turn into a dragon and eat your top half.
If you were playing Mortal Kombat 2, he sure as hell would. But if it was Mortal Kombat 1, he was too goody-goody to have a fatality.
Oh, fuck Liu Kang.
Fucking Liu Kang, man. So shot. But I can't imagine anybody else other than Jamie Lee Curtis in that role because the way she plays the character is fantastic. Now, an interesting thing about this, too, Steve, is that... again, according to the commentary track, which I watched with John Carpenter and, damn it, what is her name? She helped write the movie. She was his former girlfriend. Oh my God. I'll have to get the interns on that, but it's with those.
Hold on. I got it. Hold on. Damn it. Where is it at?
I should know that.
Fuck.
I feel bad about not knowing.
Deborah Hill.
Deborah Hill.
Okay,
go.
let's see. There you go.
So the commentary track is with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Jamie Lee Curtis. And they were talking about how the critics, universally panned this movie for being kind of a, I don't know, I guess in today's lingo, kind of a slut-shaming movie, kind of a morality tale that, these promiscuous friends of hers get fucking murdered. But, Jamie Lee Curtis is Lori, the virgin, like she is spared or whatever because of her virginal status. And that is not at all how they wrote this movie. Like, and this,
well, it's a misread even of the movie presented. Because she doesn't survive because she's a virgin. She survives because he gets seemingly killed.
Yeah. I mean, Myers still tries to kill her. It's like, it is not like she's spared. She just got away is all. Now, this is an interesting thing that they pointed out is because the message that they were trying to get across by having all of her friends that were so busy, having their lives consumed with, boyfriends and getting laid and drinking and stuff like this, the reason that they got murdered and she didn't is because basically Laurie Strode is more aware of her environment and more aware of her surroundings because her concentration isn't completely occupied by those things. She's an observer. She's a watcher, which is actually the same thing that Michael Myers is too.
Yeah, well, it's the family thing, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly, of course, which isn't a thing in this movie, but they later made it that way too. But I thought that was kind of an interesting thing because it's very true. Like all of her friends are very unaware of what's going on. They don't see the signs and stuff. They don't see Mike Myers ever. Like lurking in the streets or in the clothesline. It's like Laurie is the only one that sees
Laurie and the little kid that she babysits.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the ones that are aware of their surroundings because she's not just completely concentrated on trying to get laid and stuff like her friends are. So that is why she survives. It has nothing to do with her being pure of heart or anything like that because we see in the movie she's riding around with Annie and they're smoking pot and stuff. It's like
she likes boys. She would totally want to get some dick if she, was a little more bold.
Yeah.
A little more confident.
Yeah.
She's not this like pure chaste vessel for the murderer to seek after and fail at getting.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I'd like to see a version of this movie where she's homeschooled.
I'd love to see a version of every movie where somebody was homeschooled.
I'm telling you, dude. Again, here's another one for you guys. Trademark, Dead Lovely. I really want there to be a fucking homeschool horror movie.
Yes.
Because there's so many like high school slashers and camp slashers.
I've been working on it.
Yes.
I've been working on it.
It's gonna be the best, dude. So
it really is. I don't know, like, I don't know how to introduce enough other teens to get killed. So we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because you'll know where homeschool kids gather.
Well, what it's got to be like a huge like Mormon or Catholic family where there's just like fucking 8 kids or some shit, you know?
Well, yeah. No, I know a ton of 8-kid Mormon families that are homeschooled. So, yeah, I guess I should think about that. Good call.
Now, another cool thing about Laurie that I didn't take into account until shortly after we recorded the original podcast, I was thinking about this movie and stuff, and I had a really strong, I guess you'd say kind of a revelation about this movie that I hadn't thought about before. But, you know, this movie is set in the late 70s. This is what, 78? Is that right?
Yeah, 78.
So this was, of course, you know, before you could fucking check the news on Twitter or get alerts on your phone or whatever about things that were going on. But in this movie, we're watching it and we know that Michael Myers has escaped from the mental institution and he is this, you know, child killer that's just a psychopath and just a cold, dead inside sociopath person. And we know that he's stalking Laurie and her friends and stuff like this and wants to kill them. But Laurie herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, has no idea who the fuck is stalking her or why. She has no clue that that's Michael Myers. She doesn't know that at all. To her, you know, from her perspective, she's trying to babysit these kids on Halloween, and just some guy in a mask shows up. It's Halloween. Everybody's wearing masks, so it could be anybody. She might be thinking this is somebody that she knows from school or somebody from town or whatever, which is a really interesting sort of facet about this movie and the character design of Michael Myers, too, because with that blank, expressionless, you know, William Shatner mask that he's wearing, that could literally be anybody in any town, you know? It's not like a Freddy Krueger or something like this that is kind of a one-of-a-kind kind of character. Like,
right.
Michael Myers could be anybody, and for all she knows, he is just anybody. She has no clue who this person is or why he's suddenly killing her or trying to kill her and her friends. I think that is an extremely interesting thing about this movie that, like I said, I really hadn't thought about because I was just thinking, I know who it is, but yeah, she has no clue. She's just forced into this scenario where she is suddenly having to fight for her life and try to keep these kids safe.
Well, further than that, she doesn't know her friends are dead. Like,
wow, yeah, that too.
When I rewatched it earlier, I noticed that her versus Michael is basically just the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
like,
that's very true.
She doesn't know that he's killed her friends. She doesn't know he's after her. She doesn't know who he is. She doesn't know anything. And it doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes of the movie. So, like, the panic and fear and everything that occurs in that last 20 minutes is just super intense.
That's absolutely true. And you know, another thing, too, and now that you mentioned that, this stuff about she's not really aware until, of course, the very end there that her friends are being killed and stuff. She is very kind of walled off from the rest of the characters in this flick that are major players. Like I said, she has no clue who Mike Myers is. But then also, too, the only interaction that she ever has with Loomis is at the very end of the movie, whenever he comes into the house and shoots Mike.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah. So it can't be like she's like, oh, finally, someone here to save me. It's like, who is this weirdo also?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck am I in the middle of suddenly? Which, you know, it's like you think about this movie and you think about the major players. You think about, you know, Jamie and you think about Loomis and Mike, and it's like, really, she's very walled off from either of those characters in the movie.
Yeah, she's on an island almost, like she's separated from all this. She has no idea that any of this is going on, which kind of, I guess, if we take the second movie reveal that she is his baby sister, if we take that to be like what's going on in this first one too, it's kind of like reflecting that truth that she has no idea what's going on, but there's a very deep connection between her and this guy.
Right. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. It's really pretty fascinating stuff. And I think one of the things about this movie that I think makes it so relatable and what made it such a huge hit too, man, is the fact that it's so easy for anybody to relate to this movie on so many levels. Because, well, I think we mentioned on one of our other episodes, it's like, typical camp slashers, right? They kind of rely on, maybe you've been to a summer camp, and you can kind of put yourself in that situation or whatever. It's like, those are the really cool horror flicks, the ones that you can relate to on some personal level. And this movie takes place in a completely generic suburban area that could be any town, right? It's like, this could be absolutely anywhere in the country. This is another cool thing about this movie that I think everybody can relate to, is the Myers house is kind of that legendary house that every town has, that's abandoned and decrepit and something, according to
everybody has a story about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's the house where such and such got murdered. That's the house where it's haunted, whatever. Like, every town has one of those. Like, I remember actually out in Morristown, Tennessee, where we grew up, out towards Panther Creek Park, right? There's a house. It's probably not there anymore, but I remember, like, if you walked down past the soccer fields, you remember where the soccer fields were down in that little valley? Yeah. If you went through those fields and kept walking and walking, there was this old abandoned shack, this old decrepit house.
Oh.
And it was kind of that legendary, somebody got murdered there, that's why nobody ever lives there. It's every town has one of those. Did you ever have one of those, like, in your town or your neighborhood or anything growing up?
Yeah, there was one, actually. It's also in Morristown, and it's on the same road as the Evil Dead house.
Oh, shit.
If you keep driving about a mile and a half, there's just this abandoned farmhouse. It's like a 2-story farmhouse and abandoned farm. I don't know if it's still there. I would imagine by now it's been knocked down, but of course it was from the 20s, so I would imagine it would have been knocked down earlier than that. We stopped by one time and like investigated it, and it kind of looks like the abandoned house in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, so we were hoping there'd be cool stuff, but not really. It was just, rat shit and stuff like that.
No human chili or anything interesting.
Yeah, no couches made out of human bones or anything. I was disappointed.
That's a little bit of a letdown. It really is. But it's like every town has that. Every town looks like this little suburb. Every town has these things. And like I said, Mike Myers even being a straight up faceless killer, it's like that really speaks to you and makes you go, this could happen anywhere. It's like, if you don't want Jaws to happen, stay out of the water. If you don't want Friday the 13th to happen, don't go to camp. But this really puts it out there that, like, no town, and it's true, no town is safe from senseless brutality and murder. I mean, there's not a town on the fucking face of the map that hasn't had something terrible happen in it, because terrible things like this can happen anywhere that there's humans, basically.
Yeah, and this brings horror into the suburbs, which is the place where everyone's supposed to feel safe.
Yeah.
And shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't feel any safer anywhere. Some people think you go to the big cities, that's everybody's mean and that's where all the crime is. Well, there are more people, so there are more crimes, but everybody's the same everywhere. We're all just trying to not get killed.
Yeah.
Like there are people out there that want to kill you, and there are people that just don't want to get killed, and that's most of us.
That is, I would say, the vast majority of us, I would say. Now, let me ask you, Steve, what do you think of Mike Myers as a villain, as a force in this movie?
Well, he is. He's a force. I mean, that's what he is. He's faceless. There's nothing to the mask that he's wearing. It's really bland. He's referred to in the script as the Shape.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a boogeyman, just like he's referred to in the movie. He's supposed to be a boogeyman where you project your fears and your worries onto him. He doesn't have to have a mean face.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to have like, claws or anything.
Right.
All he has to be is this imposing figure, and you just assume so much about him.
And he is definitely an imposing figure, man. And Nick Castle, he portrays the Shape for a lot of the movie, but actually there's a whole bunch of different Mike Myers in this movie. They just kind of had whoever was on set at that time put on the jumpsuit and the mask, and
it makes sense if anybody's out there thinking, well, why couldn't Nick Castle just show up? Well, he was getting paid $25 a day.
Was he really?
So yeah, that was how much he was getting paid. I mean, nobody got paid a ton on this. I think Loomis got paid the most. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, got like $8,000 for this movie.
Wow.
I mean, just think about that. A movie that goes on to make $70 million and you got paid $8,000 to do it. Or you got paid $25 a day.
Holy shit.
And this movie was shot pretty quickly, so he couldn't have made much money off it. But don't worry much about Nick Castle, because he went on to direct movies such as... Do you know any of his movies, Ben?
I don't know,
Oh man, well, get ready.
Okay.
He directed The Last Starfighter.
Okay.
He directed The Boy Who Could Fly.
The best movie of all time.
He directed Major Payne.
No fucking way. We just talked about watching Major Payne earlier tonight before we watched My Big Fat Greek Abortion.
Well, think about this. When you're watching Major Payne, the man behind the mask, Michael Myers himself, directed it.
He's the man behind the mask behind the camera.
That's right. I imagine if you were to listen to the Major Payne audio commentary, you would just hear a lot of breathing. and then somewhere near the end, he would be like, "This scene was hard to shoot because it was very muddy that day."
And that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Then do you also maybe hear him like strangle a dog off camera or something?
Yeah, you'll hear him do that, or like get real frustrated because he doesn't see boobs. I want to talk about that. I don't know if you noticed this. Okay, so Annie Brackett is my favorite character in this. I think she's great. I think absolutely 100% Nancy Keys is amazing. Mm-hmm. She's so cute in this. She was in Assault on Precinct 13. She has this great sort of like attitude about her.
Yeah, she's sassy.
I really like her. She's sassy. She's fun.
I'd hang out
she
with
has
her.
fun with her dad. I'd absolutely hang out with her. If I were a teenager with her, I would, be an absolute ridiculous mess and not know how to talk to her. So that would be fun.
If I was hanging out with her, I would totally blow it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. If I was hanging out with her, this is what would happen. She'd be like something like, "So, what sort of movies do you like?" And I would be like, "Star Wars." Oh.
I think my conversation would be something like, "So, I noticed that you don't wear pants sometime. I noticed that also Donald Duck doesn't wear pants.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool. Mm-hmm. Do you?"
You're saying that? Yeah. Okay, I guess. Yeah.
Pooh Bear right. Too. Sometimes he didn't. He was a fat one.
So I don't know if you noticed this, but in the scene where Annie Brackett, she is talking on the phone to Lori, and she spills some butter on her clothes, and then she takes off her shirt and pants and replaces them with just an Oxford shirt and no pants. Well, the camera angle of that is from Michael Myers' point of view, and whenever she does all that without turning around and showing her boobs, I don't know if you noticed this, but he slams a potted plant up against a wall and walks off like he's mad.
I guess he does. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, so watching it this time and seeing that, I realized this is all sexual. Like, for him, this is sexual. This is like, I don't know like what it was that initiated it, what made it happen, but like it's all tied with sex.
Well, because there at the first of the movie, whenever he kills his sister, of course she just banged that guy in like the most fucking short bang of all time. It's like fucking 30 seconds, and he's already dressed and like going out the door. And he goes upstairs, and she's there topless, and that's when he stabs her and stuff. Which, just quick PS, man. For one, that whole opening is bad as fuck.
It's really great.
I just want to talk about that separately here in a minute, but there's that one shot where like it's where he's stabbing his sister.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that the reason that they did it this way is so they could pour the fake blood on her to make the effect look good, but I love that scene when he busts into her room and he starts stabbing her, but then like his vision, which of course is the camera since it's first person, his vision just goes to like watching his hand work the knife.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a strong element of Michael Myers, is that he's
an observer. He watches almost like he's outside of himself.
When he kills that guy, I don't remember what his name is.
Yeah, Glasses.
Tommy?
Glasses Tallman.
Tommy, I think. Or no, Tommy's the little kid. I don't remember.
Chest Arms Back?
Chest Arms Back. He kills Chest Arms Back, and he like, sticks him to the cabinet, and then he does this like sort of head tilt,
like a dog. Like what? What is this? This is interesting.
Yeah, it's like Michael he's an observer, but like nothing means anything to him.
Right. Like, sociopath. He has no feelings.
Yeah, so like the projection of him is that he's wearing this blank mask and he's this blank person, and then also like the things we see him do is like he's blank. He's just intaking. He takes things in and doesn't fully get them. They all confuse him. Everything confuses him. But he wants to kill it all.
Another thing too that I thought was really cool is that, we have that great speech in the middle of the movie there where Donald Pleasance as Loomis there, he talks about how, long ago he met that boy with the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, and all that shit, which is really cool. He's just basically explaining how he met this kid that just has no soul and no conscience, even as a, 8-year-old or whatever. And apparently that was actually based on a real-life experience that John Carpenter had. So he's from Bowling Green, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And Kentucky. And
or Kenfucky, am I right, guys?
I think you might be. But while he was going to college there at the university, they took it's basically like a field trip to a mental institution, because that's the kind of thing I guess you did back in the 60s for a field trip. And
wow.
I know, right? So there's actually all kinds of stories. Actually, my mom was telling me a story about that not long ago, about one time they did a field trip to a mental institution, and it was just crazy. Like, it sounded like they went to the damn, like, Silence of the Lambs lockup. Like, it was fucking crazy.
Let me just give you the opposite side of why that's crazy. Can you imagine if you're a person who is being held in an insane asylum and pumped full of drugs, etc., and now they're leading in gaggles of children to stare at you? What?
You're gonna react positively.
Yeah, this sounds like bedlam shit. Like, anyway, go ahead.
That's exactly what it was. Well, John Carpenter said that while he was there on that field trip, he did actually meet a really young dude who he said had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, and he said that this kid, just even sitting here and talking to him for just a second, he could tell this kid was just devoid of humanity, just absolutely soulless and without a conscience and stuff like this. I don't know what he was in for or whatever, but he said that was a huge influence while he was writing the character of Michael, is this kid that he met that just had no soul, which I thought was pretty fucking rad. I thought that was metal.
Yeah, I mean, I know that throughout my childhood, I met a lot of dark people.
Sure.
Like people that...
Dark people.
Yeah, I knew some people growing up who were in jail for murder now. Like,
shit.
Yeah. even then, though, like I still couldn't say of those people that their eyes were completely dark, like that they had no soul. So to imagine meeting someone like that as a child is just
pretty eerie,
insane. Yeah,
pretty eerie stuff. I think it's really interesting. Now, one of my favorite things about Mike Myers is that we have no idea what his motivations are. We have no idea why he's evil. He is just evil for the sake of being that way. Now, is that something that you think enhances a villain, or do you like to get in there and know where they're coming from, you know?
You know, I don't like a backstory.
Yeah.
I'm not excited for yet another Texas Chainsaw Massacre backstory coming up at the end of September.
No.
I think a backstory can be done and done well and add to the mystique of the character and maybe even make them more frightening sometimes, but rarely does it really do that.
Yeah.
I think in particular the fact that we just don't know really what's going on. All we get is the perspective of Loomis, who honestly this film also paints as a little out there, like he's a little weird.
Yeah.
And so are we sure we need to trust this guy? It's not until we see Michael kill again that we're positive we need to trust this guy. And we know that he's right, but even then he's still acting odd.
Yeah, he's a little bit kooky. He's the Mad Eye Moody of this movie.
Yeah, constant vigilance. He says that a lot.
And he's got that squirrely eye always darting around and so on. Drinking that polyjuice potion. But, that's the thing is, like, with Michael, we do get a little teeny tiny bit of backstory in that intro. The backstory that we have is that he killed his family.
It's not revealed immediately that that's his sister.
True.
She knows who he is, and we assume, maybe, but she could be the babysitter, etc.
That's very true, yeah.
We do, we see his parents pull up and they, are concerned. And we learn as Loomis goes to check out the gravesite that was his sister.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of where that scene is sort of revealed. But, the thing is as far as, like, that little teeny tiny bit of backstory that we got about Michael from the first of the movie, it makes such a complete difference. Because, really, if you think about it, if you go and check out the, I can't remember what his name was, Ron Thorne or whatever it was, the guy from Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh, Russ Thorne.
Russ Thorne. Like, he pretty much does the same shit. He's a guy that goes around and kills these, teenage girls on this night of pandemonium. But the difference is we have literally no backstory about him. We just know he escaped from prison or whatever for murder.
Yeah.
But, he just barely has less story than Mike Myers. But it's amazing to see how much of a difference, just that little ounce that you got about Mike's childhood, what a difference that makes in terms of how you connect with that character and how you feel about him.
Yeah. And it's just enough to make it even more mysterious.
Yep.
Like, just because it's revealed, but, like, why? Like, why did he kill that person?
Yep.
Like, why is he killing this person that we then find out is his sister?
Yep.
What is it that makes him want to kill her in particular? And what about, was it the sex? Was it the fact that he has this sort of maybe budding sexuality that he's having trouble dealing with, and he also doesn't. I mean, how he's supposed to be 8 when he kills her? Is that right?
So it's kind of early. I want to say he's like 8 or 9, something like that.
At 8 and 9, you don't even fully understand life and death. So, like, if an 8-year-old were to kill someone, I think that has happened a couple times. But
sure.
Like, the 8-year-old doesn't really know entirely what they're doing. But we in this movie learn that as he grows, he doesn't develop any sort of sense of right and wrong. So he, at that time, even if he could have known what he was doing, maybe would have still done it.
I wonder if they ever tried putting him in church, Steve.
Church would have saved him. I bet he was listening to Kiss. That was probably it.
That and that Antichrist
Nights
Devil's
in
Child.
Service of Satan.
Ooh.
Oh.
They should have replaced them records with some fucking Stryper, some Petra. To hell with the devil.
To hell.
That would have just set him on the path to righteousness and glory.
Yeah. But if you really want to get him on the straight and narrow, you turn him to country music where they never talk about divorce or spousal abuse or alcohol or good old country music.
If you want to hear a dark motherfucking song that's an old bluegrass song, have you ever heard Knoxville Girl?
No.
Dude, you got to look that up after the show.
Yeah, hold on.
Knoxville Girl is an old ass song that's been around since fucking forever. And it's just basically a song about a guy from Knoxville, Tennessee that loves a girl so much that he has to beat her to death with a stick.
Yeah, sounds like...
There's a horror movie right there, Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Hank Williams.
Yeah.
Not Hank Williams Jr. Hank Williams.
The OG.
Huge fan. I've been listening to him since I was a youngman.
Original Recipe Frank, as I call him. Hank. I said Frank.
Yeah. Original Recipe Frank also.
Yeah.
He's Frank from Always Sunny.
Yeah.
But, you listen to his music, you read his backstory, and it's just like, who ever thought country music was wholesome?
Yeah, really, right?
If country music is wholesome, it's because it's bullshit country.
Yeah,
Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to listen to it, Toby Keith.
No. But I do think that there could have been some salvation for Michael had he, again, perhaps a Striper record somewhere in his collection. That might have just straightened him out. Now, in the Rob Zombie remake, he spends the first, half, 3/4 of the movie explaining Michael's backstory. Yeah, of him coming from a typical Rob Zombie white trash worship abusive, kind of home, which is of course Rob Zombie's number one fetish that he has. Do you find that enhanced the character of Michael to you at all?
I just look at him as different movies.
Yeah.
I prefer to think of them as different movies because I think there is good value in Rob Zombie's backstory for the character in the movie that he directed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to imagine that it's the same Michael Myers because if you add that backstory, it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add anything. It takes away.
That's kind of how I'm having to watch fucking shit-ass Prometheus and Covenant. It's like, because it is as hell not making the goddamn Xenomorph any fucking cooler.
No.
By giving me all this stupid backstory. I'm just having to watch those as like, these are just other sci-fi movies. This isn't about my Xenomorph. Hashtag not my Xenomorph.
I bet that's a hashtag that's already going.
It has to be, man. It has to be. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that in the remake, when they explained everything, you're right. It does kind of make sense for that picture that Rob was painting in that one, but I do not think that it makes the character of Mike Myers any more interesting. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about too, Steve, what do you think about Mike's obsession with hiding his face and hiding his identity? Because he goes to that hardware store, he breaks in and he steals rope and knives and a Halloween mask and stuff like this, and that mask is a priority for him because really he could have just gone around and killed all these people without a mask, but he wanted to hide his identity. And even towards the end of the movie there, when we see Jamie Lee Curtis and him struggling and she pulls his mask off, he won't even continue stabbing her before he puts that mask back on. That's a priority for him. It's like that mask, that faceless, expressionless visage is part of him. And I wonder if that goes back to he is just, mentally stuck there on Halloween night where he was wearing his clown costume and clown mask. I don't know if he is just mentally stuck there and he's like, this is what completes me. This is what makes it feel just like that night, as if I'm wearing that mask.
It's his whole identity. I mean, think about, like, it doesn't matter what his intention was leading up to that or what it was that happened, but it defined him in a period where he was defining himself as a human.
Right.
As an 8-year-old, now the only thing he has is trials about that moment, is psychiatric visits about that moment, is group therapy about that moment. Like all of it
him.
is that moment. Yeah. So it defines him. So he only feels safe. He only feels like himself in that moment. So he needs the mask. He has to have the mask. He has to be killing. He has to do these things because that's who he is. It's who he's been told he is his entire life.
Wow.
Like, he never had a chance. Maybe at 8 years old, he didn't understand life and death. He didn't understand what he was doing. And if he had been raised a different way, not in, constant reminder of the thing that he did, maybe he would have grown up to be a regular, everyday Joe who happened to have killed his sister when he was 8 years old.
Wow. So you're kind of saying that basically sort of he made possibly a totally unconscious mistake, and then the environment, the system that he was in kind of created Mike Myers.
Yeah, but I mean, as we hear it from Loomis, he thought that too. He thought that there was a lot behind him and that there was something he could bring out. But again, Loomis isn't going to be there all the time. He's not going to be the one in constant contact with him. The ones in constant contact with him at an insane asylum are the people getting paid minimum wage who have no training on how to deal with people with mental disorders.
Well, especially when you're talking about through the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Goddamn, you want to talk about a horror story right there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a great documentary, I can't think of the name offhand, where basically it's just footage of an insane asylum in the 60s, and it's disgusting.
Probably not a savory environment.
Yeah, so like we don't know what Michael Myers could have been or what he was, but we do know that one moment defines him, and that's the moment where he seems to feel the safest.
Right. So he tries to recreate that environment as closely as he can, which makes sense too. I mean, even going back to, of course, obviously going back to the Myers house, his childhood home, and as we find out later, being around his sister, he is just recreating that night, which is, I think, pretty cool. It's a pretty cool idea to think that he is just totally stuck there. And I love too, man, like, of course, that's one of the most iconic masks in any horror movie villain history.
Yeah.
And I love how they play with the fact that thing is so bright white. Like, there's that scene of Laurie where she's sitting in that doorway crying, and the doorway is just black behind her, but then just the face emerges. It's lit beautifully. It's lit so cool.
Yeah, and it's genuinely scary. Like, I would imagine if you were sitting in a movie theater, especially, and you saw that, it would be extremely frightening. Yeah, because you're in that sort of dark, and you do look around and you can see people's faces in a similar way. So it's like you can see where Scream 2 kind of could develop that same idea, where it's like, well, we're in the dark here. And then of course you can see where that guy who shot up the Dark Knight premiere actually created that fear as a reality for us.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
What a fucking asshole, man.
Anyway, so yeah, this movie, like, it doesn't scare me.
Yeah, it's suspenseful
here's the thing.
At times.
Yeah, it's suspenseful at times. It's a good movie. It's well acted. It's well written. It's well directed. Everything about it is great. I don't think it's John Carpenter's best horror movie.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't either, apparently.
I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think it is a classic, but the thing is that a movie can be a classic and still not be the best movie. Yeah, it's true.
It's very, very true.
And this is still a great movie. This is still an amazing movie, but I don't find myself scared. The brutality is amazing. I really love the closet scene. I mean, I'm not breaking new ground here. Everybody knows how great that closet scene is. How
so claustrophobic.
So small and inescapable. And he is so animalistic and just ripping away at the door. Like, I think I've said this before maybe in an episode, but just that feeling that you're safe behind a wall or you're safe behind a door, and just anything that eliminates that safety is so frightening.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Anyone just like kicking down a door or just ripping through the wall, those are very scary moments, visceral reactions. Like you can't stop yourself from being frightened by that. So that moment is really good for me, but I don't find any of the other moments to be particularly frightening.
I love Annie's kill too. Actually,
yeah,
I like the lead up to her kill because actually, whenever she gets strangled in the car, it's really cheesy, and she kind of like, crosses her eyes. She's like, yeah. I'm totally dead. Like, I think that's pretty lame, but I do really like that. You know, she goes out to the car, she forgets the keys, she goes back, and then whenever she gets up to the car and sits in it, she notices the windows are all fogged up from, Myers' heavy ass breathing. And that's like a perennial fear of mine, is like, getting in your car at nighttime, you always check that motherfucking back seat. It's like still one of those things that creeps me out. Like, just the idea of, what if somebody was in the back seat when I got in the car? Like, that still kind of weirds me out. So I think that kill is really, really badass. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. The killing of, I just don't know the boyfriend's name.
I don't know. It's Todd.
Richie? Is it Richie, maybe? I don't know.
I really don't know. He's got a sick van. His van is really dope.
Yeah, pretty awesome van. That kill is really brutal. Like, the lifting him up off his feet and just stabbing him into the cabinet. Like,
well, because that's the one guy in the movie that looks like he could maybe physically match Myers, because he's really tall. He's a tall, athletic dude.
It's not even close.
No, Actually, I think he's even a little taller than Myers, than Nick Castle, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, man, he just shoves that knife in him and stabs him up against that cabinet. And I love, too, that, like, the look on his face as he's getting stabbed, he's just kind of staring at Myers like, what the fuck are you? He's got a great expression on his face. Really, really good bit of acting.
There's, I don't know if I've ever talked about this. I don't think I have. But I think this is an instance of something that I've been writing about recently that I would call the magic of violence. There's something about violence that can eliminate like height disparity or muscular differences or anything of that sort. What you can often find in real life is that a person who is intimidating, or a person who seems like they could handle themselves, when confronted with violence, can find themselves absolutely inept. Right. And incapable of dealing with it. Like, they may be physically capable of handling it, but they never thought it would happen. And that's kind of the look that he gives him. Right. Is that, like, I never thought that this might happen. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. The tables can be turned so fast, because even if you look at, like, I mean, hell, like that scene in, like, Pet Sematary where, like, tiny little Gage, like, cuts dude's Achilles tendon. Ugh, one of the greatest bits of violence in an old school horror movie ever. It's so fucking bad.
We have to cover that. That's there's some interesting shit in Pet Sematary, but that is one of the greatest. Because a child that size being the threat is so outlandish, but also so frightening.
Oh yeah,
it's like, what if it did happen?
I don't want to go down that road.
No, don't go down that road.
Sometimes dad is better. Now, when we do review that, we got to just
Farm remembers.
Whenever we do that episode, we just have to do it in fucking Judd voice the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time.
It's a really, really fantastic flick, though. And it's like you said, it's not necessarily that scary. The cinematography is fucking amazing, and I think is what makes it scary and suspenseful, though. All those shots where she's like looking across the road and seeing, Mike standing out at the neighbor's house, or Mike carrying that body across, and Mike just walking, or Michael just staring. The shot of him standing in the sheets and in the laundry and stuff. It's like, that shit makes it scary. The cinematography and the way that stuff is shot makes it so cool. And like I've mentioned before, the opening, I think, is truly, truly awe-inspiring. That's one of the best parts of the movie, is the fucking opening, because I don't know if we've really had a movie that starts off like that, where you start the movie off in its first person perspective, and you don't really figure it out until you see that weird little arm jut out.
Yeah.
And grab the knife and turn the lights on and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it definitely it had an influence on giallo films that came after this.
Oh, hugely.
That's a pretty common thing. But I think he was playing off some stuff from Psycho for sure, and also from a few other movies. There may be some shots from Killer Perspective, but like to use this POV as the oftentimes the primary way we experience the film is revolutionary.
And talking about some of the movies that influenced it, especially giallo movies and so on, they said that one of the movies that really influenced them while they were writing it, which totally makes sense if you've seen it, Deborah Hill and John Carpenter both said that Deep Red was a big influence on this. You ever seen Deep Red?
Is that Argento?
It is.
I have not.
It is a rad movie. I'm pretty sure it's Argento. I'm gonna say that it is, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure it is.
But it's a rad movie, and it basically involves, kind of like a killer kid and stuff like this too. And there's a lot of kind of shots like that where you just see sort of a hand sticking out, and you don't know who it belongs to, and it's so cool. You got to watch Deep Red. That's a cool movie. And also too, they said the scoring of that movie played a big role in it, which again, if you watch that, it does kind of make sense looking back on it. But awesome. the fact that whole first part of the movie, again, I can just imagine myself in a movie theater at that time period. You're seeing a slasher film, it's about a crazy killer or whatever, and so when the movie starts, you're not really aware of the fact that you're seeing through the eyes of a kid. Especially because the perspective is kind of shot. That's a really fucking tall kid because the camera is like 6 feet up or whatever. But it's like he kills the sister, totally silent, no talking, and you don't realize that it's a little kid until the parents show up and pull the mask off of him, and that's when the camera goes outside of his body, and it pans out in that crane shot, which I fucking love, with his parents just standing there holding the mask and Mike standing there holding the knife. I love that shot so much. It's so weird and surreal. But it's only at that point that you realize, oh, this is a fucking little kid. It's so jacked.
And you just don't see it a lot. I mean, maybe Village of the Damned, Children of the Corn, but in those cases, the killers, they're children, but they're working together. Like the automatic assumption is that they're smaller and weaker, so they need to band together.
Right.
But the absolute reality is that an 8-year-old with a large knife could easily get the advantage over his sister, who is obviously not expecting to be stabbed to death by an 8-year-old.
Right. Exactly. So I'm sure that's one of those things that really, if you're seeing this for the first time, not knowing anything about it, it had to just blow your hair back a bit for sure. So, Steve, what are your overall final thoughts on this flick, and what do you give it on the scale of 0 to 10?
0 to 10. Well, this is an amazing movie. It's a classic. It absolute must watch. It's John Carpenter. I love him. Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing in this. The Michael Myers is an iconic killer. I think perhaps I've never given Halloween as much credit as I should because of some of the sequels and how bad they really get.
I haven't watched them. Well, I watched the one with fucking... Fun. What's the one with... Isn't there one with like Coolio or somebody in it?
Yeah, Halloween H2O.
That was really not good. I've seen that.
That's terrible. No. It really is. Yeah. So I don't want those though to influence how I look at this film. This is absolutely important for Nightmare on Elm Street, for Friday the 13th, for so many American horror, American slashers that come after this. It doesn't scare me entirely, but as I said, there are a couple things that I think are really good, like some good like brutality and showing murder in a way that isn't fun, which I think is an important part of a good horror movie. That the murder's not fun. Or if it is fun, that the whole movie is fun, like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So I really love those things. I think that it's tight. There's not a lot of superfluous stuff going on. I feel like maybe the story of I guess this running thing about the boogeyman.
Yeah, it's a little superfluous, I would say.
Yeah, while it can be considered true that like he is a boogeyman, it's a little superfluous. And in fact, even the babysitting itself could be thrown out. Like I don't see how it's necessary for any of this.
That's true. Those could just be girls staying at home because they're too old to trick or treat or whatever.
Yeah. So, but again, considering how quickly it was written, etc., I can't really say anything too negative about this movie, and I love it. It's a great film. I don't want to watch it all the time, but if I'm thinking of things to watch and Halloween comes to mind, I'll watch it.
Right.
So I'm gonna say this is a 9.
I think that's very, very fair, man. Because like you said, for me, this is one of those ones that is undoubtedly an absolute piece of history. But
yeah,
it's not like, okay, if you were to compare this to like, old albums and stuff like that, there's old like Chuck Berry albums that are a piece of history. Fucking invented rock and roll and shit like that, like we talked about before. But it's like, are they fun to listen to? No, not really. I won't really put them on and jam them anytime. But then there's some stuff that is also equally a part of history, and it's still fucking badass to listen to. Like, dude, I will listen to Van Halen 1 any time ever. That's a piece of history, and it's actually still fucking awesome. I feel like this movie is a fucking Van Halen 1 kind of thing, where it's like, yes, it's hugely important and influential, and it's also still just an absolute blast. I have seen this movie, I don't know how many times, and I will watch it anytime, any place. This is a chicken soup movie for me, where I'll just put it on. It has such a great flow to it. There is never 1 second in this movie where it feels like it's dragging or we're spending a lot of superfluous time with characters that we don't care about. Great pacing. It looks awesome. Again, the opening is mind-blowing. I love it. Sick soundtrack. I won't pretend that it's perfect, though. This movie has some pretty glaring flaws in it. There's a lot of stuff like the fact that, it's supposed to take place in the imaginary town of Haddonfield, Illinois in October,
it's
obviously.
Actually, Pasadena. Yeah.
Yeah, in March.
Uh-huh. And
it's like, dude, if you even just take just one cursory glance at that neighborhood, all the trees are green. Everything's fucking green.
Yeah.
But they do such a great job of making you think that it's not. Like, they had people whose job was spray painting leaves, brown and red and stuff like this, and just scattering them along the lawns of the neighborhood and stuff. And kind of like what we were saying.
Make do.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing, sort of like what we were saying before about the violence. If you think back on it, you think it's very violent, but it's not. And like in my head, if I think about scenes of this movie of the girls walking around the neighborhood, it looks like autumn, but I know it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're dressed like it's autumn.
Yeah.
Like they do enough to indicate that it's autumn that you just forget that you're seeing completely green trees and sunny days.
Yeah, exactly, man. And really, all of that kind of goes out the window once night falls, because after it's dark, you really can't see what color the trees are, and you still see the leaves blowing, and the majority of the movie does take place at night.
Yeah, it gets dark real quick. I mean, basically, it's from the moment that Lori and Annie talk to Annie's dad outside of the store whenever they, find out that it's been broken into.
Yeah.
Like, they have that, and he talks to Loomis a little bit, and then, boom, dark.
Yep.
And it's dark most of the rest of the movie. So, yeah, you don't have to worry at that point to try to make it look like autumn. Everybody just assumes whatever time you say it is, it is.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's amazing what an influence this movie has on you, that it can be showing you green trees in Pasadena, but then in your mind you think, oh, wow, it's Halloween. It's pretty amazing, the effect, the direction, and again, simple stuff like having her get a little, red leaf stuck in her hair during that one shot. Like, it makes you think that it's October. Plus, calling it Halloween doesn't hurt either, I guess.
Yeah.
Donald Pleasance, we didn't really talk about him very much, but I think that he does an awesome job. He's got a couple of monologues in there that are really fun, but my absolute favorite thing that he does in the movie is that scene where he's staking out the Myers house, and there's the
the kids.
Yeah, the kids. Yeah. The kids are like kind of thinking about going into the house or whatever, and Donald's hiding around that bush, and he goes, "Hey, Ernie, you better get your ass out of here."
Yo, what a weird accent he put on.
I know. It's like he was just trying to think of his best, like, creepy thug voice or something.
Get your ass out of here.
Better get your ass out of here. But then, like, the kids scamper off, but then the camera shows him, and he looks so stoked with himself. Like,
yeah,
I really did
Way
it.
to go, Loomis.
Yeah, he's like, I fucking nailed that one. I thought that was hilarious. That's my favorite thing he does in there. So, like I said, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it just has such a wonderful flow to it and such a great atmosphere. And I love the season of Halloween anyway, and this movie instantly transports me to that. This is one of those ones that usually every year while we carve pumpkins, we watch Young Frankenstein and we watch this.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right, good choices.
Yeah. So it's like, this is one of those ones that really just transports me to the season of Halloween. So I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite horror flicks ever, one of my favorite movies ever, period. It's a motherfucking 10 for me, man. 10 out of 10.
Woo, woo!
What? Well, Steve, what are we going to be covering on the show next week for our viewers?
Well, as far as I understand, we're only going to be talking about bowl cuts. Because this is now Smoking Bowls.
The show where we talk about the hottest bowl cuts on those 90s hunks. Actually, the bowl cuts kind of coming back with that whole undercut kind of thing.
Everything's coming back. God damn it.
But the thing is the kind of bowl cuts that these kids have now, I don't think you could eat nothing out of that kind of bowl. It's like a broken bowl. It's like a bowl that's been dropped and it's just sort of a half a bowl.
You know what it is? It's they all wanted to get the Joker from Suicide Squad tattoo damaged across their forehead, and their stepdad said they couldn't, so they were like, "I'll get a fucking damaged bowl cut then." Dale.
I think they all look like they have mange.
You know what? Maybe they do just have mange.
Yeah, it might be that. It actually started with mange.
I would believe. You know what? Teenagers are gross. If a teenager had mange, I'd be like, yeah. That sounds right.
I believe it.
So, next week we're talking about Final Destination. And no spoilers, I have some things to say about it.
Yeah, it's true, because that was an episode that we did record in the past. So we've actually already recorded this episode. And I'll tell you, I was blown away by the fact that it is now Steven's favorite movie of all time.
Hey, guys, just wait till you hear it next week, because you will hear me say such things as, this movie, ... like ... me ... quotes.
I think there's also a quality bowl cut or two in the movie.
Holy shit! Man, I'm gonna start, you know what, when it comes to smoking bowls, number one is gonna be Devin Sawa's bowl cuts.
That's one of the best. And I mean, Ryder Strong's from Boy Meets World is unstoppable.
Oh, yeah. 100% best bowl cuts in the world. So yeah, talking Final Destination next week.
A real piece of shit movie.
We got so many great movies coming up though. So just stay tuned.
But do feel free to write us an email and suggest us some flicks. Where can they reach us, Steve, to make some suggestions to our show?
Well, you can always email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com. You can also reach us through Instagram or Twitter at deadlovelypod, or we also have a Facebook group.
Well, that's fantastic. You guys can usually find me hanging out with Delilah. I'm over at her house all the time.
Oh, Delilah.
We're smoking crack, doing all kinds of crazy shit.
You and Delilah.
Or you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars. Where can they find your personal shit, Steve?
You can find me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Steven Spratling. I'm not creative, so Steven Spratling.
Sick. You guys, please be sure to rate and review and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That really helps us show up on the charts and stuff. Go on iTunes, write us a very simple, quick review, even that just says, I think they're probably hot, and that would be a fine review for us. Don't use any potty language or they won't post it. But yeah, please do write us a review. It really helps us out ton.
If you think we're probably hot, you're right. I mean, we are.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So you can even write in, they're hot, they told me so.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love...
That's always good proof.
Man, if I went on, like, next week and I found that there were, like, maybe 5 or 6 reviews that just said, they told me they were hot, and that's it.
Yeah, as long as they're 5-star reviews, that's great.
Yeah, I'd be stoked. They told me they were hot. I think that'd be awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a really, really fun episode for me because I love this movie so much. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have been absolutely delightful. And meanwhile, me and my man Steve, well, we've been dead and lovely.
Lovely.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.